Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on Cybersecurity Awareness Training 101. If that's what you signed up for, you're in the right place. We're just going to give it a few seconds here as people are still joining. Hope everybody's having a great day so far. And we've definitely got a lot of great content to cover. And hopefully everybody here is going to get some good takeaways from our session today. So that's probably about enough time to get everybody in here. So yeah, welcome again, everybody. My name is Michael Shagru, and I'm joined today by Tyler Sanders and Rishwan Syed, who is our cyber expert. Say hello, guys.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people on the call probably are familiar with PACE. For those who aren't, we're in business a little over 20 years. Our main services are proactive managed IT security, managed cloud services. We're an ISO 9001 business. We've been for many years. And for the last 7 years, a great place to work in Canada. This is kind of our service structure here on the right. We do all the basic services that most, other IT companies you might find do, but most people want to work with us for the proactive services. We're not here necessarily to talk about our company today, but if you've never been introduced or we haven't talked in a while, a lot of great things happening at PACE now. So we'd love to have a conversation with you, and our contact information will show up at the end so we can flash that on the screen, and love to speak with you. We do a lot of these educational webinars. If you haven't attended any of them before, welcome. If you have, welcome back. But if you've been to any of ours, you know that we do keep copies, and they're accessible on our website. If you go to the pacetechnical.com site, under the media dropdown, you'll find one called webinars, and you can get access to a lot of our past training webinars available to you on a whole variety of topics. The Microsoft Suite, Teams, cyber training, lots of great things in there. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're just going to have a quick look at the landscape, just to kind of update people on what's really going on out there in the world of cyber threats. Going to look at some of examples of basic and some of the current more advanced attacks that we need to be wary of. And then we're going to go through the 101 cyber basics, kind of give people a refresher or some training if they've never had it before. Going to give you some access to resources, and there will be a quiz at the end. So hopefully everybody's paying attention here today. Don't worry, we won't be too hard on you. It's super simple. And then we're going to wrap it all up with a Q&A session. Sounds good? So we're going to start out super basic. What is cybercrime in general? Really any activity carried out using computers or the internet. I'm actually going to see if I can turn off my video here, because it's starting to already get in the way of some of the things here. This number here is staggering. It's almost unbelievable to me. 600 billion lost to cybercrime each year. It almost doesn't seem real, but it is actually a real number. Most cybercrime financially motivated, but there are other motives, political, even just trying to disrupt services and infrastructure and whatnot. Cybercrime as a service is a growing trend. It's never been easier for criminals to start up their own cybercrime operation. All the tools necessary, cost is super simple. Anybody on this call, if you wanted to start your own cybercrime regime, you could probably do it today very easily. And that's hence why it's such a problem. So it's definitely a growing industry. People are making lots of money, and it's actually on track. This is a crazy thing that it's on track to surpass the illegal drug trade, which that's also kind of a staggering statistic. And then the last thing, it's almost unbelievable as well. On average, companies take over 6 months to notice a data breach. Now, that's a new tactic of cyber criminals. We're going to talk about that during the session today, getting in and lurking to try and get the most out of taking advantage of businesses. Probably a lot of people recognize this man, the ex-FBI director. He said this many, many years ago. I go to a lot of conferences. We all do. At PACE, we see a lot of cyber experts speak. They're all saying the same thing that he said a long, long time ago. Only 2 types of companies. We have to plan and prepare as though we are going to get compromised at one time or another. And if we take that approach and have the tools and the means and the process in place, we're never, and no company can, 100% protect themselves, unless they, move their business out into the woods and never connect to the internet, which is not realistic. So there's no way to be 100% protected. So yeah, the other cases, we want to do whatever we can to minimize any kind of damage that might come from some sort of a cyber attack. So kind of leads us in, why are we here? Well, as great as the internet is and all the great benefits of it, communication, benefits for our business, being connected and whatnot, a large portion, the reality is, exists to A, try and sell you something, B, steal from you, manipulate you, or manipulate your opinion, which is a huge trend I'm sure everyone has seen. Also, our data and company data, personal data, this is what everybody and all these cyber criminals are after, because that's the value and that's the leverage they have to demand ransom and things like that. The gateway that they use for that is your authentication. Almost all the means that they're doing, phishing campaigns and emails and things like that, are meant to trick you into giving up your authentication so they get access to your systems and get access to your data. And that's what they're going to use against you or your business. Yeah, so we're just constantly, everybody on this call must be constantly being hit, spam messages, phishing messages, and things like that. We just need to recognize what it is, and it's not just email anymore. It's all kinds of messaging, even text messaging. I'm sure lots of people on the call have been getting those as well. We just need to be really vigilant, constantly educate ourselves into what to look for. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish today. But the targeting and research into attacks from these cyber criminals has just improved. They're way more organized than they used to be. And they're constantly, if you talk to any cyber experts, they're already always one step ahead of us in our, trying to defend against them. A couple of years ago, I was doing one of these webinars, one of these trainings on cybersecurity. And in my research, I came across this company in the Ukraine. Now, from the outside, this company looked like any other business. They had about 200 employees. Their employees had benefits packages. They had, vacations, sick days. They did internal trainings. They had birthday parties. They had holiday parties. Employees got bonuses and whatnot. From the outside, they look like any other business. However, the main purpose of this business was cybercrime. And the interesting thing about this one is they started out as actually a IT security company. Like they sold antivirus software. However, they were doing a horrible job. Like their product was not good. They weren't selling very much. So they got ingenious and decided to create a cyber campaign to generate and drum up some more business. So you can see this is an example of what their campaign looked like. And it was basically a pop-up message. We also call this kind of scareware. So it's a message that pops up. Man, if I had a nickel for the amount of times my mom called me because one of these messages popped up on her computer, But this is actually just a pop-up. Nothing has happened to the computer, but an ad or something they clicked on, might have loaded some sort of, small little, pop-up software into their system. So this is showing that their computer is infected. They call this phone number. Of course, the other person on the other end says, oh, well, maybe if you give me access to your system, I can have a look around and help. Of course, they said, yeah, looks like you're infected. And we have software that can help you. I can sell it to you now. And also, you can pay me, $100 and I'll clean up your system right now. Well, what they proceeded to do was charge their credit card and also get their credit card number, again, to use to sell later on the black market, but also further infect their systems. So this is the kind of sophistication that's going on. Like there's whole businesses and even, countries supporting cybercrime financially. So this is kind of what we're up against, so much against us. And that's why we have to do this kind of training and be so vigilant. What do they have to gain? Obviously, the top gain is money. Some lone wolves, want to do it just to try and do it and, have their 10 minutes of fame. A lot of it is disruption. And we see that if you've ever gone on the Government of Canada site, that is one of the big concerns to, major infrastructure like power sources, power grids, and things like that, because they're trying to really create some major disruption to entire, populations. And then political, obviously, we've seen that in recent political campaigns, that kind of disruption happening as well. So still, if we look at the landscape, malware and phishing are still the most common forms of attacks, just because they're the easiest to run and have been very successful. A lot of people think, okay, well, we're putting all this means, we're doing all this training, we have all these new tools, so cybercrime must be slowing down a little bit, right? Now, think again, 50% more attempts in 2021 compared to 2020. So it's only growing. And over 43 billion stolen just through email compromise. So that's like malware, phishing attempts, and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit more about email compromise as we go on. But these numbers are so staggering, it's almost unbelievable. But I talked and kind of made mention to hacking as a service, cybercrime as a service, and whatnot. This is just a couple of snapshots as to what's available. Like anybody here, if you wanted to, you can hire a hacker at any time. Just like you can hire a contractor to make you a website or things like that, you can hire hackers to come in, and if you want to target a company or a group of people or whatever it is, here's some going rates of what it costs to hire a particular hacker. Here's another little advertisement of it. Yeah, and don't tell my kids, although I'm sure my kids already know, that this service exists. You can hire somebody to go in and change their grades, like almost anything. It's incredible. And I wanted to show you this one. This is also kind of from the dark web, but if you look at this, it almost looks like a shopping cart you might see on Amazon or any other kind of e-commerce website. It's so simple to buy your, cybercrime campaign, your phishing campaign, just add a few things to your cart. So this cybercrime as a service concept, they'll do everything for you. Like in the old days, these cyber criminals had to do it all themselves. They had to write their own emails. They had to, create their own email accounts. They had to create their own, custom fictitious servers and try and put them behind firewalls to hide their identity and things like that. No more, folks. That's all done for you. You just have to pay, a small fee, and somebody will do all the work, provide all the wording for you, even if English is not your first language. All that is done for you with these services now. And that part is super scary, that anybody can do this. You don't even need technical skills anymore. So we just wanted to show you a couple of recent trends. This one happened, back in July, it's called a man-in-the-middle attack. So man-in-the-middle attacks aren't new. They've been happening for many, many years. And a man-in-the-middle attack is literally one of these cyber criminals just intercepting a communication between a person and whatever the intended, let's call it website or whatnot that they're trying to access. And the man in the middle is going to be just trying to intercept to gain, information, credentials, and or leverage other things. So this one was interesting because this one circumvented what's called multi-factor authentication, or we also call it two-factor authentication, which in most people's minds and most businesses, so two-factor authentication, you must be using it in one way, shape, or form. That's when you go in and enter your credentials on a website or something like that. And then it pops up a little screen that says, enter in an authentication code that you might get emailed to you or texted to you, or you might use some sort of code generator to enter in this code. And you would think, okay, God forbid somebody steals my ID and password. There's no way they're going to be able to get to this code, so we're safe, right? Well, this attack sort of proved that wrong. And here's how it worked. And I know this might be a little bit small for people to see, but so let's say I was going to log into my Microsoft 365 account and somebody had sent me a link. Now, the whole caveat to this is somebody had to get tricked into, clicking on a link or going to a site that they shouldn't be going to. And this is going to be a website, let's call it the Microsoft a duplicate of the Microsoft 365 portal that some cyber criminal has created to look exactly like the Microsoft 365 site. So the victim thinks that they're logging into Microsoft 365. So as normal, they enter in their ID and password. And then what happens, and this is all automated, by the way, this is one of those, cybercrime as a service, pieces of software. Automatically, once that person entered their credentials into that site, it opened up the real Microsoft 365. So the cyber criminal opened up the real Microsoft 365 site and automatically entered in these credentials that the victim just entered in to the fictitious site. What happens when you enter in your ID and password to Microsoft 365? Well, if you have two-factor authentication, it sends the little pop-up that says, enter in your code. And it sends a text or an email to the original user. They get the code. Now they're going to enter it into the fictitious site. Automatically now that code, the criminal takes that code and enters it into the real Microsoft 365 site. Now they are logged in. They've circumvented this two-factor authentication. They're fully authenticated into your Microsoft 365 portal, potentially even into your Active Directory. And from there, now they can start causing all kinds of havoc. So that was a major thing that happened, but it's just another reason for us to reinforce to businesses that as much as we think these tools are making us safe, these criminals are always thinking and figuring ways around it. Would you say that, Tyler and Rishwan? I don't know if you had anything to add there.
I was going to say that one, yes, the great points on just everybody's responsibility to be extremely vigilant in triple checking everything. Assume any email that you can't easily recognize as something familiar and that you trust, question it. And then with the multi-factor authentication, there's what's now being called multi-factor authentication fatigue, and we're getting so many pop-ups on our phones to click to authenticate. For instance, I have Microsoft 365 on my Mac. I have it in a Citrix desktop. I have it on my smartphone, and every now and then they just automatically need to authenticate. So you're continuously getting pop-ups, and what people are now doing is, without even thinking about it, just clicking to approve that authentication. And hackers are taking advantage of that because they'll try to log in. If they phish your credentials, they'll try to log into the Microsoft site, and then it's giving the victim a pop-up on their phone, and they're just so used to clicking approve, they don't even think about it, approve it, and now the hackers just gained access because the victim has authenticated it.
Yeah, exactly. So just kind of
just
keeping
to
on.
add to what Tyler just said, definitely it has become such that we are so used to just clicking the approve button, it doesn't register with us. Is this something that we should be doing or not doing? A couple of things to keep in mind. First, going back to that email, if there is actually a link in the email that gets you to log into Office 365, it's always a good habit not to click on that link. Go to the actual Office 365 site and then log in from there.
Yeah.
Currently, there's a Microsoft, not necessarily, it's not a product, but it's an enhancement of their MFA, where actually anytime you need to approve something, not only does it show you the location of where that MFA is being generated, like giving the example that you said it was a fictitious website, and the person thought they were adding it to a genuine website, but you get that pop-up. It says you're trying to log in from Russia, and so that should make you suspicious, right? That's an added step, and also it'll make you add a 2-digit code. You can increase it if you want. It adds complexity, but it decreases the risk base where it's not just a button you're pressing. You have to add the 2-digit screen code that's on your screen into that website. So, people are more aware of what they're doing. And obviously key is training. You just got to keep training your users to understand this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are definitely good things to keep in mind for sure. All right, well, let's keep moving. One other one that I brought up, also very recent from August. I bring this one up only because, a lot of companies have this strategy where they're thinking, oh, well, Apple computers are way safer because hackers really aren't interested in them. It's much harder to get through to Apple systems. And, this attack, it was pretty huge, kind of proves that concept wrong. It's not just Windows systems anymore. So some other trend, this isn't new, spear phishing, but it's just continuing to grow. Instead of, doing the shotgun approach of just sending out tons of emails, these cyber criminals are doing their homework. They're using social media, any other kind of media information to target individuals, finding information out about them and using that information, again, to just try and trick them into doing things. So just super quick, just to give you an idea of how these cyber attacks have changed. This is just kind of a simple diagram of how an old ransomware attack might work. So, generally the criminal is going to send it out via email, trick a user into clicking on it, on something or downloading something. So the ransomware, starts infecting and encrypting all the files. And once it encrypts the files, the big message pops up right away that says, all your files are encrypted, pay us the money and we'll give you the decryption key. Sometimes they gave the decryption key, sometimes they didn't. But it was super simple and that was it. The whole idea was to encrypt files as quick as possible and then ask for money. Now, the way that they're doing it is a bit more complex. So they're still, generally sending out things via email, maybe just being a little bit more targeted with spear phishing and whatnot. But once that user clicks on the link and the system gets infected, they're not just popping up that screen right away to try and get the quick, cache hit. What they're doing now is dropping additional tools. And what we're seeing a trend is they're also dropping, cyber security tools, like penetration testing tools. Like what better way to find out all the vulnerabilities in a system by using the tools that we use to try and protect people. And then they're trying to, do lateral movement, get access to other systems, maybe escalate their privileges up to an administrative level. And then they're going to exfiltrate as much data, steal as much data as they possibly can. Because again, that's the leverage that they've been using. Personal data, company secrets, client information, you name it. And then it's only then that they are going to drop the ransomware. And the reason they're stealing the data, like most companies I'm sure on this call have backup systems in place. So if somebody encrypts all your files, hopefully you have a backup system in place that you can turn the clock back to before your files got encrypted and recover your data. But if somebody takes the data away and now is is, threatening to make it public. Maybe they have information about your clients. We've seen, these criminals literally call and email clients because they stole the data and said, hey, I just, hacked one of your vendors, and if they don't pay me, I'm going to make all of your information public. So that's what's happening right now. Yeah, spending an average of 90. So yeah, they're not just making the quick hit. They're, lurking in the environment and really trying to get the most out of their attack before, showing their face. So stealing the data, using it against you. I kind of mentioned this, using it against your clients, and the public shaming. Biggest trends that we see right now. All right, so let's get into some training here and start off with some terms. Sure, a lot of you at least seen these terms anywhere. So malware is the most common one right now. Just stands for, short form malicious software. Any kind of code really designed to, infiltrate your systems, harm you, and, in the end, help a criminal steal information, get access to systems, etc. Ransomware, again, it's a type of malware that's going to encrypt data. Again, this is one of the most common ones that we all hear about, trying to get a ransom to give you a decryption key and whatnot. And a lot of companies that get caught off guard, that don't have the means in place to recover from something like this, or, their data gets stolen and they're in a bad place. That's all related to ransomware. Spyware, somewhat similar. And this is one of the tactics that they're using, because spyware can, lurk in the background. It's lighter software, so in a lot of cases it can go undetected. But this is what they're using to try and gather intel and whatnot, hopefully to use against you. A Trojan is, again, it's also a kind of, virus or, malicious software that's designed to look like one thing. Generally, Trojans come in the form of attachments. So you think it's a Word or an Excel or a PDF or a WAV file, an audio file or something like that, that you're thinking, oh yeah, I've got a voicemail I need to listen to. Well, as soon as you click it, the Trojan then silently in the background goes in and infects your system. Virus, obviously people know virus is certainly old, and most major type of malware trying to infect a system or a network. Again, also comes in the same way, typically through a file or app or something that you might click on. Worms, same thing. It's kind of like a virus, but worms are spreadable. So they're meant to infect one system and then go out and use network resources to go and infect as many other systems as possible. Hackers, a lot of people don't know, there's actually two types of hackers. There's the good guys, which we call white hat hackers, that are responsible. A lot of them are criminals, but they're experts that are trained to train people and to simulate tests and do mock cyber attacks to try and find potential vulnerabilities. It's the black hat ones that we want to stay away from. Those are the real cyber criminals. And then phishing. Obviously, everybody's heard of phishing. Generally comes through email, but now we're seeing it a lot coming through text messaging, which we refer to that as smishing, actually. And social engineering, obviously the newest tactic, really trying to use, it's really a means to use information and whatnot to try and trick people into giving up sensitive information, credentials, data, etc. All right, so let's talk about passwords. I'm just wondering if anybody, and you can certainly, if you want to take a guess, use the chat or something like that. Can anybody guess what the #1 password was in Canada for 2021? So, there's just a few security companies that run these tests based on, thousands and thousands of users logging in, what passwords are they using? So, all right, that's enough time. Maybe, maybe nobody wants to guess, but here's the findings from that report. So if you're still using a password like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I mean, it is somewhat insane to me that these passwords are still being used, but they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can see, obviously, super simple passwords are still the biggest in use. But you can see how long it takes to crack these passwords, like literally brute force within a second or so. I don't know how the password Tiffany got on this list, but this is what showed up in the report. So obviously very popular though. But the reason that you want to use really good passwords is because hackers have really good tools to brute force and get past them. So the latest research says 14 characters long should be the minimum. I know, over time it used to be 8 and then it used to be 12. The most recent says should be 14. The next screen, I'm going to show you why 14 is a key number. Definitely, you should be using a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. That makes it very difficult for hackers and their tactics to try and guess your passwords or brute force. At least one uppercase letter, not using common information like your name or a birth date or a phone number, through social engineering and social means. A lot of that can be found out. All right, I don't use this. So my name is Michael, but if you had to or felt compelled to use some sort of common information, you might try, disguising it this way by replacing letters with symbols or numbers that sort of mimic letters and numbers. Not using the same password twice. This is definitely a tactic of cyber criminals. Several things happen when they gain credentials. The first thing is they want to try and sell that on the dark and black web. They're also going to use tools and software to try and manipulate that both with your internal network, but they also have tools that can go out and just start going to every bank that exists or financial entity that exists, and just trying these password combinations, see if they get a hit somewhere else. Now, I know lots of people, certainly on this call, there's so many passwords to manage. I'm sure lots of people use the same password in other places, but you have to know that criminals are aiming to use that against you. So, we try and coach our clients into using some sort of like a password tool or something like that to manage the passwords. Because I know, geez, me myself, I probably have at least, somewhere probably between 50 and 100 between all the tools and sites and things like that I belong to. It's really, really hard to keep track of. Never sharing your passwords, and 100%, please, no sticky notes. If I have to walk into an office and see it on a computer screen or under a keyboard or something like that, going to drive me bananas. But this is what I wanted to show you, and part of the reason why 14 is a key number, so that you can see even at 14 characters, well, certainly look between 4 and 12, how instant it can be. Even if you have combinations of letters and numbers, if you don't have the correct amount, it's still very, very easy for a hacker. But if you look at the 14, even if you had all lowercase letters, and as Rishwan likes to say, even if your password was, I love going to work, something like that equals 14 characters, and it's all lowercase numbers, no combinations, or it would still take a hacker 4 years to get through to that password. So anyways, passwords are super simple. It's such a basic element, but such an important one. So let's talk a little bit now about email. So spoofing is probably the most prevalent thing. It's certainly the easiest tactic of criminals to use. And they can use spoofing in both a combination of, even if they've stolen someone's ID and password, yes, but it's usually the tactic they use as a first step to getting the first users, to trick one user into giving up their ID and password. So it comes in a few different ways. The display name and spoofing the display name. So spoofing is just impersonating or changing to trick you. Spoofing via a lookalike domain. So instead of, let's call it pastetechnical.com, it might be, Paces, with an S or something like that, technical.com, or spelling technical with just a K instead of CH, making it at a glance look close to the domain that you think you're going to. And then, newer ones, you use a combination of both the display name and the display email address, which I have some examples of that to show you. So I keep a little folder in my email. I know some people might think it's not a good idea, but I like to keep it for examples, to be able to show in circumstances like this. So this is a legitimate email that somebody had sent me. Now you'll see a lot of like cutting and pasting. This isn't how the email came to me. I did the rudimentary cutting and pasting just because I wanted to cover up the person's name. They might even be on this call, I don't know. But anyways, so when I saw this email come in, obviously it was coming from a law firm, and I knew who the person was. I knew the law firm. I wasn't purchasing a house or anything like that, but I didn't notice that at first. But most people notice on an email first is they're looking to see who was it sent from. So you're going to be given a display name. So that's the first thing you're looking at. Does this look like somebody I know, and is this the intended sender? Next to that, what most email systems do is in this one single little bracket, put the email address that it's coming from. So we're looking at the combination. Does the name match who I think it is? And does that look like a legitimate email address? And at first glance for me, both of these were correct. It was a legitimate person and that was their legitimate email address. But then I noticed this other little bracket here and I'm like, well, what's that? So I opened up the email, and once I double click on it, now I can see this other email show up here. So basically what this person in this criminal did is they changed, and you can change your display name in an email system to whatever you want. And that's what's going to show up when you send out an email. But this hacker basically changed the display name to both the name as well as also in the display name, he put in brackets the correct email address. So at first glance, when you look at it, you see the correct email address, although that is literally still just part of the display name. Right next to it is the legitimate email address that it actually was sent from. And you can see it's this whatever, virjatest74@gmail. Who knows what that is? So, but at first glance, this is a tactic to, for people that don't look too far, who knows? Maybe you're a lawyer. A lot of these criminals are preying on being in the right place at the right time and saying the right thing. So if I was a lawyer, hey, even if I was just somebody curious, somebody buying a house, let me look at this. That's not a good idea. But so if you ever wanted to double check, double click on the sender's email address, it'll open up this little record here to show you, what is the email address that this was sent from. Always check. And again, not clicking on links unless you're 100% sure. If you have any doubts, call the person, and don't just send a reply email. Call the person just to make sure things are legitimate. But here's some other, types of, phishing email as well. Like during COVID, lots of people using Zoom, and Zoom is one, Teams is another. And who knows, again, right place, right time. Maybe you missed a meeting and all of a sudden you get a message that said, hey, you missed the scheduled Zoom meeting. Looks like here's the Zoom logo. Maybe this is legitimate. And you're like, oh crap, I missed that meeting. I better look at this because here's another tactic. Zoom will only keep this message for 48 hours. So if you're seeing emails asking you to do something maybe out of the ordinary, but also putting a time limit and sort of pressuring you into doing something. Again, that's another tactic that these people are using. Just another example here, from the admin team, You know, again, you can't trust just something coming from admin team. And again, this is an example of spoofing a domain name. You can see instead of Microsoft, this is login.mcrsftsvm. So that's not Microsoft. But if you're just looking at the interior and the sign-in, that looks exactly like the Microsoft sign-in. So again, you just have to look a little bit closer. So I mentioned business email compromise, the billions of dollars that are being made by defrauding companies. Here's the most common one, the CEO fraud. So that's where it's generally a spoofed email, you know, tending to come from somebody pretending to be the CEO, usually to a financial person, asking for some sort of a wire transfer or a payment or whatnot. This is probably the most common one. So if you're in finance, you've probably seen some of these attacks. You know, they use LinkedIn to find the finance person, and they're going to spearfish and make direct attacks to you. Account compromise, you know, trying to, you know, request payments to vendors, you know, is another tactic. False invoices. Hey, need to pay this invoice now. Again, you just need to look at it. Some companies have so many invoices and so many vendors. They're short on time, and sometimes these things slip through the cracks. Oh yeah, I better just pay this. Attorney impersonation, you know, attorney impersonation, you know, law enforcement impersonation, you know, other tactics where you think this is a legitimate person. Oh boy, I better do this because this looks important. Again, always just looking one step further into all these things to make sure it's legitimate. So what do you need to watch out for? High-level executives asking for unusual information or unusual tasks. You know, requests to not communicate with others. Hey, let's just keep this between me and you. Requests that bypass normal channels. Hey, I know we normally do it this way, but I'm on vacation or I'm on the road. Do this real quick. That kind of language. Definitely, you know, unusual language or unusual date formats you're not used to. Email domains and reply to addresses that don't match the sender. Just a couple of quick examples. Hey, I need you to make a wire transfer ASAP. Like slow down there. And something like this. Hey, do me a favor. I'm on holiday. I need you to take care of something. The deadline's today, so make it a high priority. Yeah. What's your WhatsApp cell number? So, you know, something you're not used to. Wait a minute, we don't use WhatsApp. Why would he communicate with me that way? So let's go through some super basics when it comes to email. Always checking the sender's email address, always looking a little further just beyond the display name and make sure you can see actually the real email address that's being sent from, and maybe not someone that's just sort of disguising it. Like the example we saw before, the subject line, is it unusual or suspicious looking? Check the to address. You know, I get a lot of phishing emails to, you know, our sales address, our info. So make sure this is actually being sent to you and not somebody that's just picked up this email address to send to from your website. Absolutely being suspicious of every attachment. Like, you really need to know an attachment in an email is legit before you're going to click on it, please. You know, the use of logos, definitely a tactic. We saw it up there with the Microsoft and with Zoom and things like that. Don't be fooled just because there's official logos showing in there. You know, is it your name in the greeting, or is it dear kind sir or dear manager, you know, something super generic? You have to get your backup when you see those things. Is there a sense of urgency? Somebody's trying to pressure you into doing something. Checking the body of text for bad grammar. You know, is it unusual? Spelling mistakes? Just an unusual way of saying things. Again, you know, you need to double check those things. If you have to click on a link, you know, hover over it if you can. You know, we also use some security software that, if you were to hover over something, it actually masks the address. So, as Rishwan said, if you get a link, instead of, especially, my God, if it's a link to a bank, you need to just open up a web browser and go directly there. Do not click on a link ever to your bank. And then, yeah, generic or suspicious signature. Yeah, sincerely the finance manager or sincerely the admin team. Any of those kind of examples, again, you have to be super wary of. And if anything looks suspicious, delete the email. If it's that important, somebody will get in touch with you, or you can just pick up the phone and call whoever that sender was. So a few other general tips. Being careful about social media. I mean, we all love social media, but you just have to be careful because cyber criminals are using this to try and gain personal information, especially if you're, making security questions. Make sure your security questions don't contain, answers or information that somebody can easily find through your LinkedIn or through your Facebook profile, those kind of things. Being skeptical of any unexpected invoices or requests to pay for something with gift cards. Oh my gosh, please. Especially law enforcement or your boss hopefully will never ask you to go out and buy, gift cards to pay for something. Always being vigilant. Yeah, we mentioned this is a new tactic, smishing, phishing over text message. Again, your bank is never going to ask you to access your account from an SMS text. Here's an example of one. This is one from my phone. I get this one all the time, the Amazon one. There's a whole bunch of other ones, the CRA. But I mean, look at where it's coming from, 999, 9999. I mean, if you see that, of course, obviously you got to be super wary, but never clicking on these links. Again, go directly to the site or call the source of something like that. Avoiding using public Wi-Fi. I'm sure you've heard it from people all the time, but this is where those man-in-the-middle attacks can happen. People can intercept your communication, even your keystrokes, IDs and passwords. So if you must use or you want to use public Wi-Fi, again, just for general surfing, but banking, shopping, entering personal information, credit card information, definitely better not to do that. And if you absolutely are on the road, use just your general cell phone connection if you have to. Another general safety tip, changing the default password of your home Wi-Fi. A lot of them come with just a super generic, like welcome or password, basic things. So if you ever do get a new home router, going in and change it, most places make it easy and give you instruction to do this. However, you just call their customer service and they'll help you do that. And then even advertisements on web pages, again, you have to be wary of. This is how some criminals are doing it, with legitimate looking ads, sometimes even going to legitimate web pages, but on the legitimate web page is where they have a malicious link. Again, always being vigilant, any kind of an ad or link that you click on to be safe. And a few other things, yeah, clicking on ads that seem fishy, only interacting with well-known sites, but also confirming that you're not on a fraudulent site by looking at that address line. And then being cautious with any kind of, if you have to download something, super cautious to make sure you're on the right site. Our team can always help you with those things. And then never clicking on links within an email. As we say, go directly to the website. I'd like to give this resource out. It's actually the Government of Canada's Center for Cybersecurity. And I mean, there's, hundreds of places that you can go for cyber information and things, but there's a lot of self-serving companies that are, giving you information to try and sell you something. The government is not trying to do that. They're generally just trying to provide information to keep people safe. And it's got both information for keeping your business safe as well as keeping individuals safe. So I like that as a resource. And then our site also for resources as well. We've got a lot of blog articles and information about being cyber safe, cybersecurity, and whatnot. So if you just go to our site, pagetechnical.com, under the media dropdown, click our blog, and here you go. So, and it's quiz time. So again, we made just a super simple quiz. I'm going to launch that for you right now. Go ahead and answer the questions, see how you do. I think there's only 5 questions. Super simple, should only take you a minute to do that. And then we're gonna open everything up to Q&A. And if you have any particular questions that you might wanna ask, you can go ahead and throw them into the Q&A or the chat. And we're gonna stick around for a little while and answer those questions. But go ahead and try your hand at the quiz questions and see how you do. And we'll give everybody just a quick minute there. And in the midst of that, you know, Tyler, Rishwan, any other thoughts that you might want to add while people are going through this?
Some of the highlights that you went over there that I just wanted to come back to. I mean, the time-sensitive emails are always a concern and should always be questioned. Banks are not going to send you emails and text messages with links in them because your account's been compromised or you need to do something quickly. CRA is not going to issue a tax refund funds through a text message where you need to click a link and get your refund back. So those are just some obvious things. You know, any of these financial institutions, insurance institutions, governments and stuff, they're never going to interact with you by sending you links to click on. So don't get easily fooled into those. And the point of if you do really question it and think it's legitimate, sign in directly, never clicking a link to your bank or make the phone call, as Mike pointed out.
Yeah, definitely very, very good to reinforce. Rishwan, any other final thoughts while people are finishing up their quiz here?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that I wanted to just add on to when circling back to the password and the length and the being more important than the password actually being complicated. A lot of research has shown there's the National Institute of Standards Technology that sets standards for the US government. The research has shown a phenomena called password fatigue, in which, you know, if you make people change passwords very frequently, there are chances that they will start making it very easy to remember. And you can give them a 20-character password, but there's a high likelihood that that 20-character password is just a variation of the password that you had given them they had 3 months ago, or whatever your frequency is. NIST at the moment or latest one, 2022 recommendation is to have no expiry of passwords, which is a lot of people get confused with that. They're not recommending that you, in isolation, remove password expiry. There are a lot of other things that they recommend that you can put in place, and certainly we at PACE can help people put those measures in. But it's okay if you have at least a 14-character password and MFA. That's also important. These two combinations, you can increase the expiry period. So if you're currently expiring a password, let's say in 3 months, and people start complaining, now I have to remember a longer password and I have to change it in 3 months, it's okay to increase that duration to 1 year. But that having that long password is more important. Having it expire every 3 months is not that important, because it's just going to be a variation. It's probably have January, February, March, or something added to that, whatever their last password was anyways. And that's what research has shown.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've got everybody that was going to participate in the poll. So I'm just going to share the results super quickly here. So are you able to see this now, Tyler? Is it showing up on the screen, the results?
I am not seeing the results, no.
Okay, well, I'll just explain the results. So the first one, email attachments sent from a coworker are always okay to open. It looked like the majority of people got this one correct. That's false. You can't trust attachments from anyone, even if it's a coworker. So maybe a couple of people got tripped up on that one. The second one, the main threat that we need to be concerned about, it's definitely all of the above. Those are all things. And the third one, if I clicked on a suspicious email or entered credentials on a site I realized may be fraudulent, I should definitely report anything suspicious immediately to my supervisor, manager, IT company, 100%, and you cannot wait. Yeah, and this next one, if you receive a suspicious email, you can try all those suggestions. I think, you know, some people might have got messed up by this one here. Really, the correct answer was, yeah, anything except clicking on the links. Like you can check the from address, you can check the email body. Maybe a couple of people, I don't know, maybe they got confused by the question or whatnot, but definitely clicking on links is definitely a bad idea. And what makes a good password? And I think everybody got that one, at least 14 characters long, and using numbers and letters and whatnot. So overall, I think everybody did great. And I hope everybody got something out of the training today and something that you can take home and use to get a little better.
Mike, there's a question, just what is a good password app for mobile?
Yeah, so Rishwan, you want to maybe
Yeah,
address
sure.
that one?
I mean, in terms of recommending one password app over there, I'm assuming you're asking about a password manager app. There are several out there. 1Password is one of them. LastPass is another one. They are very popular. I'm not here to recommend one vendor over the other, but definitely it's a good direction to head in to have that password manager so you can have a unique, long, complicated password for every single website you go to. I mean, I'll say those two names I mentioned, they're good. You can use any of those. There are others out there. I know a lot of times it's about getting that deal, and once you're locked in, you kind of stay with that password manager. But just having one is great. Is a good idea.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, if anybody has any other questions, I mean, these are the kind of things that we certainly help our clients with, not only the, you know, the strategy and, you know, tools and things like that, but also the strategy that goes along with making sure that your business, you know, stays safe and it is cyber safe. Okay. Well, so far, I mean, that's all the questions that I see. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see the top of my screen to see if there is any other things showing up either in the chat or the Q&A. But it looks like that's everything that we had for today. So thank you again for everybody that attended today. And hopefully everybody stays safe, and look forward to our upcoming webinars. We'll be doing lots more as time goes on. We're generally doing one of these trainings, you know, at least a month or so. So everybody have a great rest of your day. Take care now.